Okay. Very good morning to all the students present in our today's session. We are conducting this session of 107 Management Fundamentals of University level having 2 credits, and we have already started with our Unit 1, that is Basic Concepts. Okay, so now we are going to move towards the new point. Until now, we have completed the functions of management, basic functions. Then we have seen about Mintzberg's managerial role, then how they are been categorized, then the universality of the management, and now we are going to start with the approaches of management. Okay, so let us start with this new point for today. So what is approaches to management? See, I think we had already started with this point and we had ended up since we wish to complete entire in one part, right? So whenever we are talking about the approaches in management, see, as per the change in time after revolution, industrial revolution, what happened? New employment scheme started, new people came into management, and things were continuously changing as per the required demand of the industry and whatever the people were developing as a person globally, right? So depending upon the need of the industrial area, then depending upon the revolution that was taking place, and depending upon the needs and requirements of the customers, and so as to satisfy them with innovative products, technology, and every other thing, it was then started with like different things came up, different people came up with new ideas about handling the people, and all these things gave rise to various approaches in management. Okay, so management plays a very crucial role in making the organization, and therefore effective management is required to ensure every organization is working towards a common objective or goal. Because what happened when the industrialization started, at the initial stage employees were not treated at all in a very good way. There was a lack of ample things which are very basic for any employee, and it was not available or made facilitate to the employees. So it created a huge loss from employee side point, and the employer was very much into benefit. But this gave rise to a number of problems which led to hamper the production in the industry. So for that purpose, many management thinkers came up with new innovative ideas, new ways of handling the employees, so as to get them efficient workers and turn them into more productive as they are. So to make these changes, new management thinkers came up with new ideas, and the trend followed one after other. So each trend had something different from other one, right? So that was considered as a new approach. So day by day, year by years, and one era after other, different approaches came up, by which the employers try to manage its employees, and these approaches, depending upon their behavior, depending upon how they work, the classical approach and a number of things gave them the name, and then these eras started coming up. So now we'll see what were these. Okay, hence it is essential to produce a good organizational structure and relationship, and hence these approaches came up with a number of ways of handling people, right from structuring the organization to creating relationship between them, letting the workflow and the employees and the team flow in a proper manner, so as to maintain a good ambience in the organization, as well as make the employees more productive, so as to overall benefit the organization. Okay, so the four different major types of management approaches we are going to discuss down today. But apart from this 4 to 5 approaches, there are many more approaches that are there in the study. Okay, so but for our syllabus point of view, we are only going to focus for these four approaches. So first we'll start with the early management, and it will be followed by the classical approach, behavioral approach, the quantitative approach, and the contemporary approach. Okay, now let us move on to the first part, that is the early approach, early management approach. Okay, the early management approach attempted to streamline the industrial revolution. They include scientific management, classical approach, behavioral approach, and lean management concept. So this Frederick Winslow Taylor, then many more scientific management gurus, they came up with their way of handling the employees, and it was given various different names to their approaches. And one type of that was scientific management, in which various aspects like time and all were given importance, right? Then after came the classical approach, which was very traditional kind of approach. Then came up the behavioral approach, and finally the lean management concepts, and all these things were included. But it was the early management type of this thing. Okay. The traditional approaches looked at the relations between the functional departments, processes, and the production efficiencies in the organization. Okay. And various scholars have had differing views on management theories. Means if you'll see, every person, he or she has different opinion for a particular approach, because every person's perception is 100% different, or some part different than the others. No two people think exactly the same way, right? There may be a different viewpoint, there may be different aspect of thinking, and so on. So depending upon how they actually see towards that thing, they have different opinion for each approach. If you'll consider a single approach, say for behavioral one, person one will have different thought about it, person two will have different thought about it, and third one might think something else only, right? So everyone had different viewpoint, and everyone tried to put forward their opinion by comparing what was actually the practice going on in the industry, and what should be the corrective measures, and what were the loopholes. So the limitations were discussed, and the solution to those limitations were included, and new theories were put forward. Okay. So various scholars have had differing views on management theories. Some are in support of the models, means the models which we are going to discuss today, some supported them, while some were against those theories, right? And in this way many people came up with their opinions. This sharply diverging view amongst the scholars has resulted in confusion. So actually it was like putting all this organization or the industrial things into confusion, because which one was to be followed, that was the major issue. And what happened, mm, a, a new person with new thought process had some different opinion, which seemed to be very positive and ingoing, but some other came and he was opposed to that, and he said that no, these are the certain loopholes and limitations, and you should work in that manner so as to cover up those limitations, right? So in this way what happened, every people, once the approach was decided, fixed, and implemented, some new person came into the picture, he decided on something else, he'd find out the loopholes and the limitations, and again give opinions over it. And in this way what happened, different approaches came into picture, and at certain time period after that, people were like confused that now what to do, right? So this was a kind of scenario, and which thing was to be implemented. But what happened later on, as per the need of the society, and as per the management that was ruling these employees, they started deciding upon that which one was the most suitable approach for their employees, depending upon the environmental condition, and hence they started putting forward the most suitable approaches so as to make the organization function in a very smooth way, to create lesser conflicts in the organization, to have good facilities for their employees. And slowly and gradually the industrial revolution was moving towards a better area to live for the employees. Okay. Now let us move on to the classical approach. What does it means? Any doubts so far, students? Yes. Okay. Classical approach. Now classical approach is mainly concentrated towards the workers and the organizations, and it is based on the management practices which were an outcome of careful observation. Okay. So classical approach mainly looks for economic efficiency with universal principles of operation. In a management sense, classical approach is tried to develop and operate universal principles or models that will applied in all circumstances. Okay. So basically this approach is looking for the best way which they believe can be exposed by the use of rational method. So according to Mullins, also mentioned that the classical approach is encouraged, the is sorry classical approach encourage the scientific view of management and provide some common universal principle applicable to all the organization circumstances. So this approach was like little bit a traditional part of a traditional approach in which certain viewpoints and certain methods of managing the employee and the management approaches were very common and applicable universally to the all organization. So what happened in this kind of approach, they mainly focus on how they can work upon actual operations that were taking place in the organization, and how better they can handle employee to work over it, right? So in this way they started developing the way to manage the employees, which was universally applicable, and as well as it was a very rational method which every organization can adopt from a viewpoint of handling the actual operations that take place in the organization. So classical approach can be classified into three managements principle that include scientific management, administrative management, and the bureaucratic management. Okay, so the classical school represented the first major scientific approach to management thought. It was distinguished by its emphasis on finding way to get the work of each employee done faster. So the basic principle was what? The operation in the classical kind of management, right? So they focus on how the operations, means the work that is going on in the organization, can get more faster, more easily done, and in a smooth way. So the main area of focus was what? The operation that is going on in the organization and how it can be done faster so as to rise the production in the organization so that they can earn more and more profit. Okay, it is the primary based upon the economic rationality of all employees. So economic this thing was also given importance here. Why? Because at that time more importance was on the production and the operation. Much more employee focused things were not done at those period, right? So saving the economic means making the operations economic and making the work done faster was the main motto behind that. This evolved that people are motivated by economic incentives, and they will rationally consider opportunities that provide them for the greater economic gain. So the basic phenomenon was like, they if you're considering the employee, so it was just like a simple calculation. If you're going to pay more incentives, employees are going to work more hard so as to earn those incentives. So basic gist of that was like providing employee incentive, making them work more, and providing them the economic gain out of their work, right? So for that, what was their concept, that two things will happen in that: the employees will also start gaining incentives, and to gain those intensive incentives, the employee will work harder. So if they are going to work harder, obviously the production will go on rising, and ultimately the organization is going to get more profit and benefit out of it, right? So it was a two kind of gain, that employees are also going to gain economic benefits and the work production will also get rise. So the classical school can be broken down into three historical philosophies of management. That is the first one is uh, the scientific management principle, then the administrative, and last one the bureaucratic management. So these three contributed to the classical approaches in the era of industrialization, and you can say that this was very much a kind of traditional approach wherein the organization and economic gain as an incentive was given importance. Okay, now next one is behavioral approach. Day after day, after observing that employees were more focused on gaining incentives rather than they used to just go on working, but the quality, the skills, and many other aspects which are very necessary to gain, or you can say to have an output as a very quality product, for that something was going on missing. And they observed that some kind of motivation was done by, means that the role of motivation was done by the incentives, but to just gain those incentives, employees were just going on working, the quality, the skills, all these things were going on missing. Their aim was little bit shifted from being an employee to gaining an incentive, right? So these things were hampering the organization. Then their behavior started changing, and then many theories, many management thinkers came up with again new innovative idea. Many few concepts of and approaches came into picture, and later on it was followed by the behavioral approach. Now let us see that what was this behavioral approach. Okay, so as a small business owner, it's vital to establish work culture in your employees, to feel them valued and acknowledged, right? So though it may be a scenario of a small business or an industry or a huge organization, making the employee feel valued and acknowledging them is a, you can say, a prime job or a prime responsibility of any employer. And if they are not, yes. Okay, just a second. Uh, just a second. I'll reshare it. From when it is not visible? Yes, is it now visible? Okay. When the screen just moved off? Yes. Just now, no? हॅलो. आत आत्ताच झालं ना तसं, की मगासपासून दिसत नव्हते? अच्छा, might be due to low bandwidth or internet connection issue. Okay, now is it fine? Visible? Okay. So we were up to the behavioral approach. So as a, see, if any problem goes on, no, you can just ping me personally on WhatsApp if the screen, because what happens when I'm recording, no, I don't see the screen of Google Meet, I can only see the PPT. And if I change the screen, it will change on your side also. So I am not changing the screen. So if in case anything goes wrong or connection goes poor, I am not able to detect that. So in that case, just inform me on WhatsApp, so that ping me personally, so that I can just work over it. Okay. Okay, we shall just continue now the point of behavioral approach. So, whether it may be a big organization, a huge industry, or a small organization, it is very necessary that the employees working in it or who are the part of that organization should be feel valued, and they should be given acknowledgement of whatever work they are doing, right? So, for that purpose, it is very necessary and a prime responsibility of a management that they should actually take effort to make the employees feel valued. Their suggestions, their opinions should be listened, they should be acknowledged for their work done, and they should be do the appreciation part from their side, so as to make that employee feel valued and feel good for the way he is working for that organization. And it will also create a kind of responsibility that he will feel for the organization, and he will also feel like he's an actual part of that organization and owes something to that organization, and he'll start working in that way for that organization. So it is very necessary that he should be make feel that he is a part of that organization, right? So the traditional authoritarian approach of to leadership no longer yield the kind of result necessary for the business success. So authoritarian approach that were followed in the past, which was more like dictatorship kind of approach, means the boss says something and you just have to listen. You didn't had any chance or opportunity given to put forth your opinion, and you just have to listen your boss and do your way, means work as per his way, right? So he was not, the employee was not much given importance, and he was like just giving a key and he'll start working, right? So that kind of approach yield nothing, because employees started getting depressed. There was no motivation in their work. They felt like they are just like a doll who is working on keys to just complete a certain task. So there was no nothing kind of innovative thing that they were doing. They didn't had an opportunity to explore their skills, and they were just repeatedly doing the same work. So sorry. So what happened after some certain time period, they started getting boredom out of it. They started getting depressed. They didn't feel like motivated while working, and this was not good sign for the business. And now this was a time period when the industry now has to make the necessary changes. So now it was a role of leaders who were actually leading the organization to make this kind of approach no longer continued in the organization, and come up with few new better things for the employees so as to make their business successful. So in fact, the behavioral approach to leadership has become a more effective way for business owners to relate their employees and get the most out of their skills and talents. So what happened in this behavioral approaches, the leaders were very much giving importance to the employees. The employees were made feel like they are the actual part of the organization. Their opinions, their ideas were acknowledged, taken under consideration, and due to this, what happened, they were like self motivated, and they wish to do something good for the organization on their own, as being a part of that actual organization, right? And due to that, what happened, they were very much enthusiastic while working, and this made uh, the employer gain more talent, more skill of the employees in the actual work and operations of the organization, which led to quality product, which led to you can say more productivity, efficiency came out of all these employees, and they were more polished, they were more productive as a part of their work, as a part of organization, right? So it was like it was being beneficial for the organization. So this behavioral approach to management focuses on the human dimensions of the workplace by fostering understanding of how people respond during times of conflicts, and by teaching the best way to manage expectations and motivate employees. Then behavioral approach to management can help many leaders handle the varied human resource problems that occur during the workday. So what started during this behavioral approach, the managers and the leaders, they started understanding their employees, that what were they expecting, what gave rise to the conflicts, and how people are responding to different things, different conflicts, different scenarios that they are facing. So by understanding their responses and how they react, they started learning that how they can handle these people, right? And teaching them the best way to manage their expectations, means if the employee is expecting something, how they can make him understand or settle down on certain things, if they are expecting too much more, and then to make them feel happy. So these kind of things, they were now included in the management approaches, right? By how? By understanding their behavior, by understanding how they respond. So fostering on the people regarding their behavioral approaches, their responses to the conflicts and other issues, then managing their expectation was now more given importance in this behavioral approach, and employees were made motivated to work more and more by giving them various financial and non-financial benefits, because this is what that they needed at that time, right? So the behavioral approach to management can was being helpful for leaders and the management peoples to handle their employees in the organization, in the and also at the time of various problems or situations which were of conflict, they could handle those easily, because now they had understood their employees, and they were able to make decisions depending upon their behavioral approach, and smooth line whatever issues that were taking place. Okay, so in this way, what happened, the behavioral approach helped the employers and the leaders to streamline the workflow and manage the employees in a very well condition. Okay, so understanding the behavioral viewpoint of the management is the first step in implementing this approach. So identifying the behavioral viewpoint was given very much of importance in this type of management approach, so as to understand the employees. And if you are going to understand them, then you are going to best make them work utilize their skills in a better way, make them more productive, more efficient. At the same time, you can help them in their motivations, manage their expectations, and make your work done by giving them various benefits, by understanding their needs and their behavioral approach. So in this way, this kind of approach was being boon to the organizational people and leaders at those times. Okay, are you all getting this? Yes. See, while I am explaining, I have just pinpointed here, but give also attention towards what I am actually saying rather than just going through the PPT, because it is this lecture, you can see it is a combination of many more things which are not there in PPT, but which I am explaining while reading and conducting this session. Okay, so also kindly give small attention towards what actually I'm speaking while taking this session. That will help you to get yourself reminders while actually solving the examinations and all. Okay, now next is the quantitative approach. So this approach stands for using all pertinent scientific tools for providing a quantitative basis for managerial decisions. The abiding belief of this approach is that management problems can be expressed in terms of mathematical symbols and relationships. So, as we can see that when we say that it is a quantitative approach, obviously there will be certain kinds of calculations and scientific way of handling the situations, right? So, similarly, as the name suggests, this kind of approach was a kind of scientific tool equipped approach in which managerial decisions were taken depending upon the quantitative basis. Okay, it was not just like observing the things, understanding the things and taking a decision. It was more scientific, more systematic and more calculative way of taking a decision. So it was believed that the management problems can be expressed in the mathematical symbol and the relationship that are available or that have been taken place in that entire scenario, and then you can calculate and then take the appropriate decision to solve that things. Okay, so the basic approach is the construction of a model, because it is through this device that the problem is expressed in its basic relationships and in terms of selected objectives. Okay, so not all things were considered at one time, but a proper basic model was developed, wherein it was devised with the problem that was expressed in the basic relationship and in terms of the selected few objectives which were under consideration. So the users of such models are known as the operations researchers or the management scientist. Why? Because they were the people who were actually utilizing this scientific tools, the quantitative technologies and methods, so as to identify the problems, study the relationships, identify the factors affecting all the situations, and then they were giving the solutions to overcome the problems and take appropriate decisions. Okay, so linear programming, critical path method, then program evaluation review technique, then break even analysis, game theory, queuing theory, all these kind of popular managerial problem solving methods were developed in those days and were practiced to identify and the issues and give the solutions, or you can say give the decision making ability to the manager by using this numbers, so as to take and land up on a stable platform, which would be a result of certain decisions that are taken on the basis of these kind of mathematical calculations. So these techniques help the managers in improving their decisions by analyzing the various alternatives in a scientific manners. So if you'll see further in your syllabus, no, in your third semester you have a subject of decision science. In your third semester it is coded as 302, and you'll identify this all things that we have learned, or these names that you have learned in your quantitative approach techniques. You all are going to practice that in actual in your third semester. Okay, so you'll be having the problems based on that. These are quite interesting kind of techniques, not a proper typical mathematical, you can say, book and pen and paper thing and calculations, but it have certain means brain part to be used, certain analysis are to be done, and then you are going to land up with certain decision which will be based upon the numbers that you're going to get out of these problems. Okay, so it helps you, and it is quite an interesting part rather than just a theoretical things that we do majorly in the studies. Okay, so it will be more practical subject that you're going to go ahead in your semester 3. Okay, so these techniques help the manager in improving their decisions by analyzing the various alternatives in the scientific manner. So it was not like just abruptly thinking, observing and taking the decision, but to observe the figures, to understand the alternative actions that are available, options that are available, and then to be choose the best suitable decision amongst the all available option. And these were backed with the scientific journey, so it was more, you can say, trustable and dependable decisions that could be taken out of these kind of methods. Okay, so the application of mathematical techniques is a particularly useful in solving the physical problems of the management, such as inventory and production and control. Then they can never be substituted for knowledge, experience and training necessary for understanding the human behavior. So this kind of study was more focused, or the scientific approach or the quantitative approach was much more focused in the areas such as inventory, production and then quality control and so on, because these techniques were more suitable for these areas of management. You can never substitute the kind of knowledge, experience and the training necessary for understanding the human behavior by using these techniques. Okay, I hope you all are getting that. So any kind of scientific decision that were taken by using this method was not of behavioral approach or psychological in nature. Okay, this was more about the calculative and the production part related or inventory related. Means such areas of problems could be solved by using the quantitative approach, but not the this psychological part can be solved with this kind of techniques that we have discussed few minutes before. Okay, so this kind of approach is another technical or you can say scientific approach that the management people put forward in their later time so as to take an appropriate decision. Okay, are you all getting this? Okay, now this is a contemporary approach, the last one as per our syllabus. So the contemporary approaches to management provides a framework of management practices based on more recent trends such as globalization theory, Z concept, McKinsey's 7S approaches, then excellence models, productivity and quality issues, etc. So contemporary approach is, you can say, this is more latest approach that has been practiced in the industry, and the new concept and the new theories that ruled up in the more modern period of this industrial, after this industrial revolution, are the part of this contemporary approach. So McKinsey 7S and all, you're going to learn all these theories in your HR and marketing subjects in this semester, or maybe in next one. We'll also see some theories as part of our study in our further chapters. So what happened, right now we can see that the market is not only limited to the area or the local market, but now we are moving towards globalization. The market is the entire globe that is available to you people, and you can easily uh, reach to the entire globe that is available as a market space to all, right? So make yourself and your organization more comfortable, more feasible globally. This kind of approaches came into picture, and it had many new trends, many new scientific management things involved in it. Concepts like theory Z, then McKinsey's 7 approaches, 7S approaches, all these kind. kind of concept which easily put forward all the big task into a small just while working came into picture, and this approach came into actual implementation in the organization. So with the appearance of global entities like the World Trade Organization, that is WTO, and European Economic Community, that is EEC, are now all cooperating in the global economy, because why the market has now got merged with each other, and you can just explore from east to west the entire globe, and you can just trade anywhere you wish to, right? So to get well equipped globally, and to get yourself you can know to get yourself resolved and successfully reach to people, you need little bit more contemporary kind of ability in your organization, which will be making the employees easily suit while getting in contact with the other part of organization which are there available in other countries. So to make all this process a very smooth one, this kind of approach came into picture, which was the need of the current era, the modern times of this industrial period, and hence this approach came into picture, which gave more importance to the current situation, like innovation, creativity, then globally reaching towards ends of other countries and all. So this kind of approach was very much modern, and our managers now need to think globally even while operating in a domestic market, right? So we are losing our market shares, even our domestic market share, because of the competition from the foreign companies. So to deal with for such foreign companies, and not only inviting them in our countries, but at the same time we going into their countries and trading for our Indian products, it has now become the need of the market. And if you can't go ahead and survive in the global market, then it is not going to help you in the long run of the organization. So to deal with such kind of scenarios, this kind of approach came into picture, and it was actually been a boon for all these companies who are just trading domestically now, but now they can move forward to the global markets out there. Okay, so hence understanding the management with a global perspective has now become important, and this contemporary approach of management supports it. Okay, so these were the few approaches that we had considered in our studies, and these were basic differences which were right from the traditional way to the modern approach of till globalization that we have studied right now. So do you have any doubt so far? Yes. Hello. Yes, students, any doubt so far? Okay. I hope all of you have understood whatever has been taught down today in our today's session. In case of any kind of doubt, you can just ask me in next session or right now. And if there are no doubts from your end, we'll just stop for today. Okay. Okay, with this, I conclude our today's session, and thank you all for attending. Thank you.